All right, amidst widespread concerns over the newly introduced on-screen marking system, CBSE has publicly admitted that some students were initially sent and evaluated against incorrect answer sheets. The development comes after a class 12 student, Vedant Srivastav, alleged on social media that the physics answer sheet uploaded under his roll number did not belong to him. And following the viral complaint, CBSE responded publicly on X, acknowledging the error. The development comes days after multiple students began raising concerns over blurry scans, missing pages, unchecked answers, and discrepancies in digital evaluated answer sheets uploaded by the CBSE following the declaration of Class 12th board results. Amidst mounting criticism, Union Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan had announced that teams of IIT Madras and IIT Kanpur would assist CBSE. Many students argued that the issue can no longer be dismissed as a handful of isolated technical glitches. Moreover, Sunday Guardian spoke to a researcher who is the whistleblower in the ongoing CBSE result discrepancies. While CBSE has now admitted that they marked papers of two students wrong, a researcher or a software engineer based in West Bengal has told us that he raised these discrepancies twice to the Indian Computer Emergency Response Team over a 3-month period. He found several vulnerabilities in the portal of on-screen marking system and prepared 2 reports which were sent to CBSE. What began as a few students raising concerns over unexpectedly low board exam scores has now snowballed into a larger controversy, with growing questions being raised over the transparency, accountability and reliability of the CBSE's evaluation system. Let's talk about this with some people who understand this ecosystem a lot better. Dr. Neha Sharma, former Deputy Director of CBSE, is here with us. Mr. Vinesh Menon, educationist and former CEO of Arise, also joins us on the program. Last but not the least, Jyoti Arora, educationist, with us on the program as well. Vinesh, I'll begin with you. Well, what do you make of these discrepancies? You know, in a country such as ours, where education, especially private education versus public education, is so stark in terms of its differences. How damaging is this particular episode to the reputation of CBSE? Let's not forget that just a few days back, Vinesh, we also had the NEET exam fiasco, which also falls under the Education Ministry. How is this compounding the woes of the premium ministry and the kind of errors that keep popping up?
Yeah, Vineet, good evening. Last 10 to 15 days have not been very pleasant for the sector. Like you said, the NEET paper leak. There's also been some guidelines on SMC that has not really gone down the best with the sector, the 3-language formula RAW, and now, of course, CBSE marking. Now, look, you're asking me to comment on what it's going to do to CBSE. I'd like to keep that to the side. For me, what matters is the student, and I think technology in assessment is necessary. I am all for technology, especially in an ecosystem which is starting to get voluminous by the day. But in a child's board result, technology cannot be allowed to become another source of anxiety, and that is the only concern that I'm having. The direction is right. The execution must be child safe, auditable, and grievance friendly. And there are some, while R&D is good, there are some things in life where the old adage is very important. Prevention is better than cure. We cannot be curing these kind of situations. We have to figure out a way to not let it come out wrong in the first place, and I think it has to come out first time right. That apart, I'm glad at least CBSE has acknowledged it. I think there is a seriousness in terms of trying to investigate it. But at the center of it, the child whose marks have gone down because of some of these glitches would obviously be going through anxiety, and that's not good.
Jyoti Arora, how are you looking at what's happened over here? Obviously, it's unfair to the students, but what does it tell you about the system at large as well? We are living in the AI ecosystem and environment now. Do you really think that the processes that CBSE follows at this point in time need an overhaul?
Good evening. School was a center for on-screen marking. So as an educationist, I'll tell you, because practically we have been involved, the intention was good. And also, I would like to reiterate that we were given quite a number of trainings, whether it was the principals or the teachers. Everyone was fully equipped. Even the CBSE gave us a support 24/7. Whenever we pointed out something, it was immediately the problem was rectified. Yeah, definitely there is some kind of anxiety. But what happens is that CBSE is also taking responsibility and accountability for that. And the way the circular has come out, where they are making it very clear that first of all you go through the answer sheet, find out if it is your answer sheet, and also find out if the number of pages are missing. So I think these kind of things, if they are taking responsibility and they are ready to rectify, but the intention was good, and I think the guidance, the training sessions were adequate. Definitely children are anxious, and even I would like to say that we have seen children, they have come up with they're coming up with the scanned copies, because now you have the freedom also to get the scanned copies. And I could see the students, they're running for the scanned copies and getting it checked from the teachers, colleagues, and friends, and discussing it. Of course, it could be rectified. It could be, let's wait for some days and let's see how the things eventually turn out.
Before I go to Dr. Neha Sharma, we also have a student, Manas Pandey, who's joining us at this point in time. Manas, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Manas, what went through your mind when you learned that there were discrepancies in some of these papers? They were blurry, they were incorrect, and they were attributed to the wrong student?
So I think the problem of the copying, checking OSM marks, and I think this is for this is good or bad, I think.
I'm sorry? Can you repeat what you said?
सर आई थिंक मतलब जैसे बच्चों की कॉपी चेक हो रही है, उनकी मतलब मेहनत देखी जा रही है, और जो उन्होंने गड़बड़ की है वो उनकी गलती हो सकती है.
अच्छा, तो आपको क्या लगता है कि सीबीएसई ने जिस तरीके से ऑनलाइन पेपर स्कैन करके डालने की ये जो प्रक्रिया शुरू की है, स्टूडेंट बेस बहुत लार्ज है, काफ़ी स्टूडेंट्स हैं, तो कहीं ना कहीं गलती तो किसी से भी हो सकती है, तो सीबीएसई को कटघरे में खड़ा करना आपको लगता है अनिवार्य है?
मेरे ख्याल से हाँ.
Okay. All right. Dr. Neha Sharma, your thoughts. What's happening here? So we are trying to understand both sides of the equation. But considering the fact, like Vinesh also put it, that just a few days back, we had the NEET examination and discrepancies related to that. It became a huge furor, a national agenda. The Education Ministry at this point in time cannot afford a follow-up mess-up.
See, what I feel is that, as Vinesh mentioned, that they are trying to correct, and that is something that we must take into consideration. Of course, when we talk about CBSE, volumes are really, really huge. And when we talk about volumes and when we talk about the errors that are being pointed out, so if you do the comparison, I don't think the error percentage is going to be really high. But we actually, these days social media becomes the judge, and then everything starts behaving in a manner which is a lot depending on the mood of the masses. And that increases the anxiety more than the errors. So I was asked by some people that, okay, have you received any complaints? So I, of course, come from a school as well. Out of all the students, which is in few hundreds who appeared for board exam for grade 12 this year, not even one parent or a child complained about any issue in the evaluation or in the marking from my side. And I am connected with a network of schools as well. So from there also, we very openly asked with each other, have you faced any problem? The answer was no. Have you received any blurred answer sheet? The answer was no. And this, I'm talking about few hundred of schools where because we were also trying to do a dipstick as to how problematic is this situation and how we can help ease the anxiety of the students. At the same time, what I feel is that yes, we should be creating more of an issue if our voices are not being heard, which are being heard. When we are trying to bring in a change in the system, which is as big as CBSE, definitely there will be an issue. But if those issues are being addressed, they are being given their due, I think we need to give that space. Yes, we have to be also keeping this in mind that we are with a system that is always there as a child friendly system. So I feel that coming from a background of having worked there also, I feel that before actually getting, this thing that is there really a trouble, we should stop crying wolf. Because if each and every concern that is being discussed and talked about is being addressed, then I think we should also be writing the stories which are positive, which also mention about that yes, there was a concern, there can be a concern, and there was a concern, but it was addressed. We should talk about things only when the concerns are not being addressed by the system. We must support the system if there is a welcome change which is required for the future is, being brought in.
Vinesh, your analysis, obviously, there will be payment glitches, there will be some delays, that can happen with any website, right? But considering that, for the lack of a better word, and I don't know how I should say this, that we have a very, sensitive group of students in our country, how is it important, regardless of the quantum of, this error, to address it at the earliest?
It has to be addressed at the earliest, and it's ironical, Vineet, that the NEET paper leak was attributed to the fact that the entire thing was being done manually. And because of the volumes and the manual processes, something went wrong somewhere in the entire funnel. Out here, it's gone wrong digitally. So in both cases, we really have an argument to figure out what is it that we need to do. For the fact is, given the numbers, the fact is the future has to be digital and it has to be technologically handled. This is the first year, but like I said, some things need to be done the right. It has to be done right the first time. We must give CBSE credit for attempting the digital evaluation for sure. Having said that, again, it's my favorite analogy is if there's a defense force trying to save some innocent citizens who are held hostage by terrorists, and let's say there are 10 citizens held hostage by 10 terrorists, and you kill all the 10 terrorists, but you manage to save 8 who killed 2. The 8 people are happy, and everybody's happy with the overall result. But those 2 people have lost their lives, their families will never get them back. So in the same manner, those few children who have undergone stress would be obviously under stress. If you look at the larger package, I think it is going in the right direction. So even a small error in uploading, scanning, mapping, it becomes a major trust issue for sure, and that has to be definitely corrected. So I think this debate should really be more about, it's not a debate against digital evaluation. I think it's an argument on stronger digital governance, to make proper controls, audit trails. We just need more sampling, more training perhaps, and that's all I can comment. My sense is that down 1, 2, 3 years, all this will get far more structured and better.
All right, Jyoti Arora, teething problems, or do you think that when it comes to a sensitive situation with education and the mindset of students in our country, no errors are acceptable?
Yeah, actually, I think it is an amalgamation of both the things. Whenever a new system comes up, there are bound to be teething problems. And of course, when we are talking about children and in the current scenario, as Dr. Neha rightly pointed out, that social media becomes the judge. Of course, when we talk about grade 12 especially, and most of the children, they have their aspirations and they're beginning a new chapter in their life. So obviously that sensitivity issue, there have been issues because we are all in contact with different schools and there is a network of schools we are connected and with students. And I want to reiterate one thing here. Out of all the students who said we wanted to get a particular percentage of marks, and maybe the parents have also, there has been some kind of pressure from the parents on the teachers also. That's what I have observed during the last 2-3 days. There have been schools where more than 100 scanned copies, they have been procured or they're trying because they're uploading it within 48 hours. And there has been pressure on the teachers to please check, find out maybe the child, if the child got 2-3% more, the child could have got admitted into that institution also. So I think teething problems are there, but as ma'am said, that it is important that the concern has been raised and we are all looking into it, and let's wait and watch. So that's my take.
You're quite right, Dr. Sharma, Dr. Neha Sharma. What else can be done in order to fortify, the system as robustly as possible? Our banking system, has managed to achieve that. The UPI system has managed to achieve that. Do you think that this also deserves the same amount of attention?
I think yes. And what we actually need to think is that, when we are dealing with volume, we need to kind of, create batches or divide, kind of decentralize the processes so that we know that fine, the queries that are being raised, they are addressed immediately or as soon as possible, as well as solutions that are required to be provided are also provided immediately. That will reduce the anxiety and definitely will help in building back the trust in the system. So we need to create systems wherein instead of having the entire volume centralized at one place, maybe more training, more trained teams, more number of teams that are trained to handle such a situation are involved and engaged so that everyone gets the support required at the time that they are actually looking for it. I'll also add one thing. I'm also providing support, the counseling support to the children, and there also day in and out we are trying to settle the anxiety, the anxious children, and telling them that wait, if the due date is not over, you don't have to get anxious about it is not working today. You still have 2 days in hand. But if your anxiety overpowers your sense of being sane, then that becomes more of a problem. You can only find solution when things are you're thinking properly. But yes, it is easier said than done. I mean, even adults find it difficult to handle a situation which is unexpected. And for children who is having a lot of aspiration, the children who are, waiting for their admission at some premier institute and the board results are not as expected, giving them this gyan for sure is something which they are not going to kind of take in a very positive way.
Fair
So
enough,
here
ma'am.
we also
Fair enough,
have
ma'am.
to
We have a paucity
Yeah.
of time. Let me quickly rope in Vinesh Menon for a closing remark, and then we'll wrap up. Vinesh.
Yeah, so quickly, first of all, you mentioned about UPI and banking. Look, UPI is almost 10 years old. Banking is more than 2 decades, 3 decades old. So we can't compare what's happening today here to that. The direction is good. Scale is very large. We're talking about close to about 1 crore answer scripts that the 12th standard grade students are going to be writing. My closing line is simple. We should not reject technology because of glitches, but we cannot normalize glitches because technology is new. The reform is welcome. The rollout must be stress tested. It should be independently audited, and the student should be kept in the center of it. So, like I said, there are some areas which it cannot be cured. It has to be prevented right in the beginning, and we have to go first time right. But we are in the right direction.
Well said, Vinesh. Appreciate it. We've run out of time. Would like to thank everyone who joined in for this important discussion. We'll take a short break. Be right back.